The fight to end the HIV/AIDS epidemic by 2030 is continued today at the launch of a 3-day HIV combination prevention meeting.
We can end AIDS by 2030, we really can, but we can't.
Declaration to end HIV as a public health threat by the year 2030.
The United Nations said Thursday that it was still possible to end AIDS by 2030, but
in the last 2 decades, the global community has been working towards achieving the third Sustainable Development Goal, which aims to end the HIV/AIDS by 2030. Known as Project 2030, this ambitious target emerged from the extensive discussions and assessments of the progress made in HIV/AIDS prevention and control. The Joint United Nations Programs on HIV/AIDS, also called UNAIDS, has been a driving force behind the goal, advocating for a comprehensive strategy to reduce both new HIV infections and AIDS-related deaths by 90% between 2010 and 2030. To operationalize this objective, the United Nations General Assembly convened a high-level meeting in 2016, solidifying the commitment to end the epidemic. One key metric in measuring progress is the fast-track targets, often referred to as 90-90-90 goals, set to be achieved by 2020. These targets emphasize that 90% of people living with HIV should know their status, 90% of those aware should have access to treatment, and 90% of those on treatments should achieve viral suppression. Attaining these milestones was expected to lead a substantial reduction in new HIV infections and AIDS-related deaths, bringing them below 500,000 by 2020. As we approach the 2030 deadline, an in-depth analysis reveals a mixed picture of progress. AIDS-related deaths have shown a significant decline globally, dropping from a peak of 1.9 million in 2004 to 0.77 million in 2018. Noteworthy success stories include Eastern and Southern Africa, where AIDS-related deaths fell by 44% between 2010 and 2018. Some countries like Australia have even declared the end of AIDS, signaling a remarkable achievement. However, the same cannot be said for new HIV infections, which have not decreased the anticipated rate. The decline between 2010 and 2021 was only 19%, indicating that the current trajectory is insufficient to meet the Project 2030 target. Variability across regions and concerning trends in certain populations, such as young females in Southern Africa and people who inject drugs in Eastern Europe, present challenges that demand urgent attention. This raises critical questions about the feasibility of achieving Project 2030 and what happens beyond this deadline. Is there an endgame for HIV, or are we transitioning to an era of endemic HIV necessitating of a different approach to health systems? To delve into these complexities, it is essential to not only assess the progress made, but also scrutinize the epidemiological terms and slogans employed in Project 2030. While strides have been made towards Project 2030, the road ahead is fraught with challenges that require careful consideration. The divergent trajectories of AIDS-related deaths and new HIV infections indicate a nuanced landscape, prompting a re-evaluation of the strategies employed by the fight against HIV and AIDS. The notion of ending the epidemic of HIV/AIDS by 2030 is intricate, involving different scenarios such as elimination, eradication, epidemic HIV, or endemic HIV. It is crucial to understand these scenarios to contextualize the potential outcomes beyond the current project. For instance, elimination involves reducing incidence and prevalence to zero in a specific area, while eradication is the reduction of global incidence or prevalence to zero. As we navigate this terrain, it becomes apparent that while the world has achieved success in curbing AIDS-related deaths, the decline in new HIV infections is insufficient. The global community must grapple with regional variations and targeted interventions for population experiencing an upward trend in HIV incidence. The success of Project 2030 is contingent on several factors, including political commitment, sustained funding, and a shift in the approach to HIV prevention and control. The need for unrelenting political commitment is underscored by the recognition that even if Project 2030 is achieved, HIV will persist as an endemic public health problem. This demands a departure from a purely vertical response to an integrated health systems approach that provides services based on disease burden and population needs. The challenges identified in sustaining Project 2030 underscore the importance of a holistic response. It is not merely about achieving numerical targets, but transforming the way we perceive and address HIV and AIDS in the broader context of health systems. The call for increased and sustainable funding is particularly poignant, as the current reluctance to invest in HIV poses a threat to the gains made and the overall trajectory of a global health. Moving beyond Project 2030, 4 potential scenarios come into focus: elimination, eradication, epidemic HIV, or endemic HIV. While elimination and eradication may seem challenging within the specified timeline, achieving epidemic control offers a more realistic goal. This involves ensuring that new HIV infections remain lower than deaths among people living with HIV, gradually reducing the burden over time. The conclusion of Project 2030 marks not just a milestone but a crossroads in the relentless pursuit of a HIV-free world. As we peer into the future, the trajectory of HIV is shaped not by an endgame but by an evolving endemic state that shows a transformative shift. The dichotomy between epidemic and endemic mandates a recalibration of our responses, paving the way for a holistic, integrated approach that transcends the boundaries of traditional vertical interventions. In contemplating the future of HIV beyond Project 2030, one must grapple with the nuanced interplay between biological realities, socio-political dynamics, and the evolving landscape of global health. The narrative of HIV does not consist of conquering your enemy, but of coexistence, a complex tapestry where successes and challenges collide into a continuum of care, resilience, and adaptability. The metaphorical transition from epidemic to endemic ushers in an era where HIV becomes a normalized facet of public health, not confined to the realm of emergency responses and exceptionalism. This normalization calls for a departure from the conventional and an embrace of the integrated. HIV, now related to non-communicable diseases in its chronicity, demands a multifaceted approach, one that involves behavior modification, lifelong medication, vigilant monitoring, and patient education. As we navigate this uncharted terrain, parallels emerge between the management of HIV and NCDs, blurring the lines between infectious and chronic diseases. The spectrum of care extends beyond mere medical interventions to encompass a broader public health approach, recognizing the interconnectedness of health determinants. This realization prompts a seismic shift from the narrow lens of vertical interventions to the expansive vista of integrated health systems. The integration of health programs into broader health systems is not a simple binary choice, but a nuanced spectrum. A diagonal approach emerges as a pragmatic bridge, merging elements of both vertical and horizontal strategies. This combination allows for targeted interventions, gradual integration, and adaptive learning. It is a dynamic process, a synthesis of best practices, and an acknowledgement that health systems are not monolithic entities but living, evolving ecosystems. Moreover, the evolving landscape necessitates a metamorphosis in global health architecture and financing mechanisms. The transition from disease-specific approaches to a more comprehensive model aligns with the changing panorama of global health challenges. The rising prominence of incurable communicable chronic diseases and non-communicable diseases underscores the imperative for a holistic approach to health financing. Disease burden and health systems capacity becomes the compass guiding the allocation of resources, ensuring effectiveness, efficiency, and sustainability. In this transformative journey, existing funds mechanisms must undergo a process of reorientation. The Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria could evolve into a broader global fund for health. This metamorphosis is not just a semantic shift, but a reflection of the changing dynamics of health challenges worldwide. Such transformation requires visionary leadership and unwavering political support at both national and global levels. In conclusion, the culmination of Project 2030 does not signify the end, but rather a new beginning in the story of HIV. The endemic nature of HIV invites us to reimagine our approaches, embrace integration, and chart a course towards universal health coverage. The complexities of this narrative demand not just adaptability but resilience, not just traditional solutions but innovative visions, and not just a temporary victory but a sustained commitment to a healthier global community. The quest for a HIV vaccine is an imperative endeavour in our battle against the virus that continues to plague humanity, infecting over 1 million people annually and contributing to hundreds of thousands of deaths. Despite facing numerous setbacks over 2 decades, recent advancements in scientific research offer a glimmer of hope for the development of a highly effective vaccine against this insidious virus. However, the journey towards such a vaccine is fraught with challenges, and it's unlikely that a viable solution will be within our grasp until the 2030s. Dr. Judy McElrath, the director of the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Division at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, emphasized the critical importance of a HIV vaccine in providing long-term immunity against the virus. Presently, all efforts in HIV vaccine development are concentrated in laboratories, animal studies, or very early human trials. Recent studies presented at the Conference on Retroviruses and Opportunistic Infections showcased promising results, igniting cautious optimism among researchers. One study demonstrated that a modification to the simian version of HIV spurred the production of broadly neutralizing antibodies against the virus in monkeys. Another study showed potential in coaxing the immune system's B cells to produce powerful antibodies in humans. However, despite these encouraging findings, researchers in this field face a monumental challenge due to the unparalleled complexity of the HIV virus. William Schief, who leads Moderna's HIV vaccine efforts, noted that the field has learned from past failures, recognizing strategies that do not work. The financial investment in HIV vaccine research has been substantial, with nearly $17 billion spent worldwide from 2000 to 2021, and ongoing annual expenditures exceeding $1 billion. Dr. Nina Russell, who directs HIV research at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, emphasized the importance of maintaining funding for HIV vaccines, highlighting the progress and excitement in the field. The journey towards a HIV vaccine has been arduous, spanning 4 decades and marked by numerous trials, with only one showing efficacy, a trial conducted in Thailand in 2009 which reported a modest 31% reduction in HIV risk. Subsequent efforts to improve vaccine strategies led to a series of trials in the late 2010s, all of which ended in failure. Researchers attribute these failures to the production of non-neutralizing antibodies which proved ineffective against the virus. Developing an effective HIV vaccine poses unique challenges as the immune system does not naturally mount a strong defense against the virus. Unlike many vaccine-preventable infections such as COVID, a HIV vaccine must stimulate a superchanged immune responses without a natural equivalent. The path to victory lies in the production of broadly neutralizing antibodies which attack HIV in multiple ways and can neutralize a variety of virus strains. However, challenges abound, including the virus's propensity for mutation, which can render antibodies ineffective. Researchers are exploring targets on the virus's surface that are less prone to mutation, as well as strategies to target multiple sites on the virus to mitigate the mutation threat. The development of broadly neutralizing antibodies requires a complex process of coaxing and guiding the immune system's B cells, a task that demands meticulous precision and innovative approaches. Despite these challenges, recent technological advances including mRNA technology, improved animal models, and advanced imaging techniques have bolstered researchers' capabilities in vaccine development. Global collaboration among major players in the field is flourishing, leading to several early-stage human clinical trials of vaccine components. These trials represent a crucial step forward in the quest for a HIV vaccine, despite facing inherent risks and uncertainties. Looking ahead, researchers are cautiously optimistic about the progress made in HIV development. While the timeline for the first efficacy trial may extend into the 2030s or beyond, the field is in a better position than ever before. Dr. Mark Feinberg, President and CEO of IAVI, expressed confidence in the advancements made, emphasizing the potential for ultimately ending the HIV epidemic through the development of an effective vaccine. As researchers continue to push the boundary of science and innovation, the hope for a world without HIV remains within reach. In the pursuit of combating HIV, researchers have also explored various approaches beyond traditional vaccine development, including gene editing techniques such as CRISPR-Cas9. While gene editing holds promise in the realm of HIV treatment and prevention, there are notable distinctions between this approach and the traditional vaccine development that warrant consideration. Gene editing technologies like CRISPR offer the tantalizing prospect of directly targeting and modifying the genetic material of HIV, potentially rendering the virus inactive or preventing its replication within host cells. Indeed, research has demonstrated the feasible potential of using CRISPR to disrupt HIV genes in laboratory settings, raising hopes for its application in clinical trials. However, the translation of gene editing techniques into effective HIV therapies faces significant hurdles. One major challenge lies in the achieving precise and targeted delivery of CRISPR components to HIV-infected cells within the body. Ensuring that gene editing tools reach their intended targets while minimizing off-target effects remains a formidable task, particularly in the context of the complex and dynamic environment of the human immune system. Moreover, gene editing approaches primarily focuses on targeting existing HIV infections rather than preventing new infections from occurring. While these strategies hold promise for managing HIV in individuals already infected with the virus, they do not address the broader challenge of preventing transmission and achieving population-level immunity. In contrast, traditional vaccine development aims to stimulate the body's immune system to recognize and mount a defense against HIV before infections occurs. By inducing the production of antibodies or activating cellular immune responses, vaccines have the potential to confer long-term protection against HIV, thereby curbing transmission and ultimately achieving herd immunity. Furthermore, vaccines offer several practical advantages over gene editing approaches in terms of scalability, cost-effectiveness, and ease of administration. Once developed, vaccines can be readily manufactured and distributed on a large scale, making them accessible to diverse populations, including those in resource-limited settings where the burden of HIV is often most acute. While gene editing technologies hold promise as complementary tools in the fight against HIV, they are unlikely to supplant the role of vaccines in achieving widespread immunity and stemming the spread of the virus. By combining the strengths of both approaches, researchers may unlock new opportunities for combating HIV and moving closer to the goal of ending the epidemic once and for all. This is Actual Edge signing off. But before we do, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.